I'm the Safe Schools Coordinator at Equality Virginia. So glad that everybody's joining us here tonight. Welcome to the Living Authentically, a keynote panel with trans youth and young adults, moderated by Moroz Taylor. Like the interpreter said, please click the globe button and select your language. Both English and Spanish dominant participants will need to select their language in order to fully participate. ASL interpreters are also pinned to the screen. This session will have closed captions in English. Simply click the closed caption button and the show subtitles button to see them. They may pop up as a separate box or show at the bottom of the screen. You can see a transcript by pressing the transcript button. In webinar mode, all participants are muted. Please drop your questions in the Q&A box and know that the speakers may not be able to get to them until the end. If you can't find the Q&A box or the chat, try looking at the bottom of your screen or tapping the participants or more buttons. The staff Zoom host is V. Lemnick, and the digital room monitor for this session is Gracie, and we will all be monitoring this meeting to keep it secure for you to enjoy. If you have any technical difficulties, feel free to reach out to me, digital room monitor, or V. Lemnick, and we will also be monitoring the chat. So right now, we'd like to welcome to the stage Justin Sykes, Andrea Yearwood, Noah Vann, and Moroz Taylor. These young people are leaders of their generation, and we are honored that they are here to share their experiences and wisdom with us today. Our panelists will speak on what it means to live authentically as a trans and/or non-binary person, including the steps they take every day to live as their true selves, how they overcome the obstacles they encounter, and what their visions for trans and non-binary liberation look like. Justin Sykes grew up just south of Richmond, Virginia. This past May, he received his undergraduate degree in sustainable development with a concentration for social change from Appalachian State University. His passions include rollerblading, collaging, advocating for climate justice, and advocating for the protection of trans youth. Currently, he is taking part in a service program dedicated to intentional living, spiritual growth, and racial justice work in Atlanta called the Quaker Volunteer Service. Andrea Earwood is an activist, athlete, and current college student. As a trans student athlete from Connecticut, she has been a fierce advocate for her right to compete, which has compelled her to fight for the rights of all trans athletes across the country. Andrea has been a featured panelist at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, Outsports Pride Summit at the University of California, Los Angeles, and more. No stranger to adversity, discrimination, and vitriol from opposing parents and spectators, Andrea has continued to raise her voice to advocate for her place on the track and other trans people in sport writ large. Bolstered by the support of friends and family, Andrea is motivated by the strength of those around her to continue the fight for trans athletes to compete as their authentic selves. Noah Mann grew up in Standardsville, Virginia, but now attends George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. He is studying criminology and psychology with hopes to earn a master's degree in forensic psychology. Noah is active in his university's LGBTQ community and is passionate about human rights for all people, especially those in the transgender community. In his free time, he enjoys listening to music, playing video games, and spending time with his mom and cat. Moroz Taylor is a 20-year-old transgender youth activist that has worked closely with Side by Side since they came out at 14. They have had leadership training through Side by Side and thus has served on several different panels throughout the years. Ali has recently become a knitter with the aid of their sister. Ali also loves birds and singing to the birds when the chance arises. They live at home with their parents, sister, and 2 dogs. So without further ado, take it away, Ali.
Yay! Hi! Hello, everyone. This is so exciting. So yeah, we're here to talk today with me being, I guess, a trans youth and everyone else being a trans youth people. And we're here to uplift, our stories and start like I don't know, a conversation. And I guess with that, do we want to just go ahead and we can share our names and pronouns real quick before we get into questions, if that's cool with you? Just any one of you.
I can start us off. My name is Justin Sykes, and I use he, him pronouns.
My name is Andrea Yearwood, and I use she, her pronouns.
My name is Noah Vann, and I use he, him pronouns.
Okay, and I'm Ollie, and I use they, them. So I guess our first question would be, what is a moment that led to you being your honest, truest self? For me, a friend of mine came out to me when we were 13, and I wanted to help be an ally to him. And so I started doing research into the LGBTQ community and realized that I too was in the LGBTQ community, and that I was trans. And yeah, I think through that, I ended up being more myself than I realized I would have when I started it.
A moment for me that really helped me really come into myself was I went to a backpacking summer camp when I was around maybe 14, and I had asked everyone to use the name Justin, and that was the first time I had ever asked for that, and I was very nervous, and I was like, no one's gonna respect this. Like, I've always either gone by the name Jay or my dead name, and was like, will I get the respect I want? And then I had some people calling for me, being like, Justin, like, come over here. And like, I had never been called that before, and I was just like, whatever, staring at trees. And then to realize that I was being like summoned with a name that I connected with so deeply was the moment where I was like, oh, I am seen. I am this person, and I can truly live and be Justin.
Okay. I think for me, one pretty big moment was, I think I was with my mom actually, and she had taken me to like my first therapy session, like ever. And in the session, I told my therapist that I knew I had felt differently than the other boys my age, but I didn't kind of know why. And then throughout the session, she kind of exposed me to more information about the LGBT community as a whole. And then she kind of brought up the word transgender and then explained what that word meant to me right in that moment. Something just kind of clicked in my head. And I was like, that's who I am. Like, that's me. And I think really from that point on, I kind of made it a point to, okay, like now I know that I'm trans, like what next? Like what more can I do to further live in my most authentic self? And then from then on, it's kind of just me being trans. But I think that was really the point where I kind of knew who I was.
The big moment for me came when I joined ROSME, which is now known as Side by Side in Charlottesville, Virginia. And I really had no clue what my identity was. I just knew I wasn't straight. And through learning experiences of others and things of that nature, I came to realize that the term transgender really resonated with me, and that I have seen these people live happy lives as themselves and can be really very confident. So I figured it was time for me to really step up and be myself as well.
Yeah, shout out to Side by Side. That was a place for me, and I know Justin as well. I don't mean to speak on your behalf, but um, that's where we met. And that's where I also learned to come into myself and learned a lot about myself and our community through them. Um, our next question would be, for me, social media really influenced my coming out and my learning of different terminology and like how to even just ask someone's pronouns. And so I guess my question is, how did social media influence you all, your coming out, and how you see other youth, you know, in our ages and younger, using social media? Anyone can go first if they have an idea.
Sure, I can go. Social media definitely played a big role for me because where I live is very rural, and I had no idea what being trans was and a lot of other terms for LGBTQ people. And so it really allowed me, and I've seen it with other youth from my area, to connect with people in the United States, around the world, who are trans, who are non-binary, and really share experiences and learn from each other and inspire each other to live as themselves.
For me, social media had a very large impact on my transition. In middle school, I obsessively watched trans people document their transition to a point where it was like an addiction, an obsession, just to like watch people change their body. And I'd go back and watch all their videos and just be like, this is possible, this is possible. But the thing that was missing for me was all those people I was obsessively watching and like became some of my biggest role models to this day were all white. And I was like, so I can't be trans because I'm Black, but I can live vicariously through all these trans masculine white men. And so that's kind of where I was like, that's as far as I'll go, because Black people can't transition because I just hadn't seen it. And so now I feel like I use social media and try to be really out about my transition because even if just one young Black queer kid sees, oh, there's a tangible example that I can live authentically in the ways I want to, and it doesn't have to be portrayed in the media that is always so whitewashed. Yeah, so YouTube was really, really foundational to me, just learning so much about the trans community.
I also agree. When I was in the beginning of my transition, I remember also watching YouTube videos on like, you know, every trans person in YouTube, kind of like going through their own transitions. But I think social media also helped, I think, influence my transition. Really in high school, I think with me running track, as a trans individual, I kind of use social media kind of as a way to continue to share my story, honestly, because I knew that, kind of as Justin was saying, that there are a lot of trans, especially Black trans kids, who may feel like they have no support, or may feel like they have no one to really look up to, or no one to relate to, kind of how Justin, you said you were doing with. And I knew that there had to be more trans kids who were playing sports and who were kind of going through what I was going through, or maybe wanted to play sports and couldn't. And I knew that by me continuing to share my story through social media, it would further help them to realize that like they're not in this alone, and that you have an entire community of trans individuals, even sometimes the entire LGBTQ plus community, supporting you. And I was kind of using social media to further emphasize that and to further get that out to as many people as possible.
Yeah, me too. Throughout, like when I started realizing myself that I was also trans, everyone on social media that was out and trans was white, at least that I could find. And yeah, white and also binary. I couldn't find anyone that was like very just like out and non-binary and like and that looked like me, you know, or even not me, but just like not blonde. um, so with that, so we sort of stated that our online presence helped influence our coming out. And I had a lot of online friends when I started coming out, and like the friend that I mentioned at the beginning, who I was trying to be a good ally for, was through online spaces because I had just moved to Virginia, and so that's how we kept in contact. So our next question is, who helped you to live a more authentic life? Who helped support you to live a more authentic life? And for me, that was partially online friends. And also, I'm very lucky and privileged to have a family that has always loved me and supported me throughout this entire process. So if anyone feels excited to go first.
I can go, but I think for me the same. My family and friends in my life have always been, again, very supportive, very kind of like, I remember I had come out to my parents, my dad specifically, and I mean his initial reaction was kind of like, okay, you're trans, like now what? Like now what? Kind of like now what can we do? Or now what can I do to help support you? Or what can I do to further your transition? And that was kind of the response from like everybody in my life. They were always like, okay, you're trans, like what more can we do to help you? And I mean, again, I feel very privileged, very thankful to have all their support and to have their continued support. But yeah, I think for me, it was really just friends, family, coaches, really everybody in my life.
I am also very privileged in the sense that I have a very supportive mom. She has been with me every step of the way and has always put my happiness before anything, whether that be, taking me to therapy, taking me to doctor's appointments, helping me with issues in school. She's always been right there and very supportive. I was also very lucky to have some good childhood friends that I've continued to be in contact with to this day. And they've really shown me that I am I'm perfectly capable of being a great person and being who I truly am. And I don't have to change that.
I think for the people in my life, just as I struggled in the beginning with my transition and understanding who I was, some of the people around me struggled with my transition and who I was, just because I didn't have language to like be very certain. I was like, yes, this is who I am. It was more like, maybe, I hope so. And I think that led to the confusion of like, what does this mean? How can we help? Do we need to help? Are you sure? Are you just like, is the internet like taking over? Like, all the people that you're showing me are white. What is going on? And so it's like realizing that all the people around you are transitioning with you. Sorry, I'll slow down. All the people around you are transitioning with you. And so they need the time and they need the space to also learn the new names and learn the new pronouns and understand what's going on. And so going through that with my family, I feel like has made my family so much stronger because we had to work through it and understand it together and not understand it together. And so I'm really grateful for my family because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So to go to the flip side, who sort of stood in your way of coming out and being your fullest self? Should I share? Okay. I think part of it was, again, online, seeing, people sort of being very transphobic and like specifically NB phobic, being like, this isn't a real thing. Everyone who says that they want to use they them pronouns, etc., are delusional and whatnot. And me, questioning myself and being like, well, is that true? Eventually, of course, I realized that it wasn't true. And part of that help was, the people I surrounded myself with. And thankfully, again, my friends and family were all there to, cheer me on. And for me, that sort of internal angst was lessened because of their help. And specifically, again, I'm very lucky to have been in a community that had an LGBTQ youth support group side by side. And going there and hearing like other people's stories, it helped lessen that anxiety that like I'm real, my experiences are real. So yeah, the question is, what stood in your way, or who?
For me, it was the school system. I didn't walk my senior year graduating high school because they had light blue robes for the girls and black robes for the boys. And I wasn't ready to have that conversation with a lot of my peers. So I just didn't walk because they would have let me wear the black robes for the boys, but then I would have outed myself to people I wasn't ready to out myself to. And then in college, the first year I was there was a LGBT floor where I was like with a bunch of other queer people and we were all living together. And it was a phase, it was a fad. And they like got rid of that floor after 2 years because we were too much work to like house us in ways that were supportive. And so it felt like this school system, both in Virginia and North Carolina, just didn't want anything to do with us. And that just was like, I have to go through this system and I'm not being respected or seen. And that was one of the biggest barriers for me. And so I like went out of my way to build bridges. I was like, I need to make space for myself. I need to continue, like, I want to be in this space. I chose to be here, or I have to be here, at least for high school. And something that was powerful for me is as I was building those bridges for myself, other people were crossing them too. And so I was forcing space for myself. Not only am I the only Black person in the room, I'm the only like openly trans person in the room. But that means that now people behind me are able to come. Yeah.
For me, it was more of not necessarily who's in my way as in like transitioning, but it was more of like, again, in sport, a lot of the criticism and kind of backlash had really come from a lot of like the older generation, like parents standing in the sidelines. They were the ones making the petitions. They were the ones who had made the lawsuit. And I think going through all of that kind of adversity throughout high school within track kind of made me question, or do I belong in sport? Or kind of like, do I want to continue running and continue to go through this for 4 more years? Just like, just for being trans, just for wanting to run, just wanting to be myself in a sport that I love. And excuse me, I really think it made me question, like, where is my place in athletics? Is there a place for trans, non-binary people in sport? And I mean, again, I think my family and friends really helped to kind of keep my head on straight, really made sure I was still running and that I was doing sport for myself and not for anybody else. But I think a lot of the older generation kind of made it difficult to kind of keep my head on track.
For me, the two things that really stood in my way for my transition was my school and my community in general. I grew up very rural place in Virginia, and before my 9th grade year of high school, I had a meeting with people from the school board, from central office, the principal, vice principal, PE teachers. Everyone was pretty much there, and they all told me that I was going to be the first person to ever transition during high school and be openly out. And while they made it seem that they were going to be very supportive of me, that ended up not being the case. I went through quite a few things that were very traumatic in that school, and that I did not feel safe going there. And that was mostly because of the community's look on LGBTQ people in general. They didn't like gay people, let alone trans people. And it really came out through just bullying and harassment. And it really pushed me to build my own support group of people who I knew were behind me and connect with them to keep going and to keep pushing through, and that those 4 years would be over and I will be in a much better place once I can leave that very small-minded group of people.
Yes. So with that, how do we envision a world where trans young people can be themselves and can thrive and, live in this future that we're creating? I think part of it is just doing what we're already doing, like right here, right now, through this panel. I think just being able to exist as ourselves is in itself revolutionary. Because you don't know like who's watching you, because sometimes I see like another very like obviously LGBT, some kind of LGBT person just walking down the street, and it's invigorating, it's exciting, it's it's comforting. And for me, one of the first moments I remember thinking like, oh, I can do this, I can be myself, was hearing an adult that was that has become close to me just say that they used they them pronouns, and that was it. They just stated that, and I was like, oh my god, I can grow up and be an adult. And be real. So yeah, how do we create this world?
I think kind of to go along with what you had said, to just continue to have these conversations and to know that, I mean, we aren't just gay, lesbian, trans, non-binary, queer in June, that, we exist as ourselves all throughout the year. Throughout our whole lives. And I feel that for us to just have the conversation like when it's convenient or, when it's cute, just isn't, it's not really fair to us, and it's not fair to the entire LGBT plus community as a whole. I just think to continue to have the conversation, continue to speak out about, trans, non-binary, LGBT plus issues and social kind of, I guess, really activism is really to continue to make sure that you're allowing our community to be heard, and that you're listening to us and making sure that, what we say is taken into consideration.
I 100% agree with both of you. Just living as ourselves, I know at least in my personal life, has inspired many youth to be active themselves in the LGBTQ community and advocate for themselves and their rights. And I feel like when we show younger generations that, you can do this and it's going to be okay, it really starts to change everyone's minds on the issue. Because if we can raise kids up and say, you can be who you are, no matter what that is, then that'll change all of society, because that's who's going to be, growing up soon enough, graduating soon enough, becoming lawmakers soon enough. And I'm really looking forward to that change when it does get here.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I also wanted to add the caveat of let's de-gender things, like clothes. I bought my first pair of women pants since transitioning last week, and the sizes make no sense. And I love them, and sometimes I'm like, oh my God, can people tell that they're and I'm like, it doesn't matter, they're cute. And so it's why do I have that anxiety of wearing something that's been labeled women's when it's just a cute pair of light purple pants? They don't have to be gendered, and I look good in them, and they make me feel good when I'm not overthinking it. And so small things like that, where it's just here are the pants, here are all the sizes. And there was one more thing. Oh, just education. At the end of the day, people just sometimes the ignorance comes from, I just didn't know that existed. And educating kids young, especially the amount of times I've told young kids that I'm trans, and they say something transphobic because that's what their parents said. And I'm actually not, yuck, fun. And then they're oh, I just didn't know. And then it's we just need to tell them and educate. And that will, like Noah was saying, that will lead to a future where all people can be welcome.
Yeah. So we have about 20 minutes-ish left. So I'm gonna ask one last question, and then we're gonna move on to audience questions. So if, again, like we said at the beginning, you could go to the little Q&A button and ask your questions there, audience, instead of in the chat. So one last question from me. So hold on. What advice do you have for other youth, especially specifically school-aged ones going through school right now? For me, I would say just being able to take time for yourself, because the school system can be brutal, and really just having a moment to breathe can really make a difference, at least in my experience. But also finding ways to sort of empower yourself. No puede escuchar nadie. You can't hear me? Hold on. Can everyone hear me? Yes? Okay. All right. Then I'm gonna continue. Maybe that person, maybe it's your audio. I'm sorry. I can't even
Ali,
remember where.
can you hear me, Ali?
Yes.
Okay, so just try turning on and off your mic, just in case, because that's interpreted as interpreting right now.
Okay.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Hold on.
Let's wait for Adeline to let us know if they can hear you.
Can you hear me? Arlene?
Okay, so I can't reach Adeline right now for some reason, so I will continue interpreting.
Oh,
Okay,
Arlene said yes.
Adeline said yes.
Okay, cool. Gracias. Okay. Does anyone remember where I was? Because I don't.
Taking breaks
okay.
from school, I remember that.
Yeah, and taking moments to validate yourself. And for me, that was surrounding myself with other queer folks. And I know that's really hard to do, depending on where you live. But like, again, online spaces have like completely changed the game in my experience. So I think that that's a way to like sort of decompress in your own space. I think that helps. But let's see what our panelists have to say. Anyone's ready?
Yeah, I can start us off. For me, school was survive. There was not much joy when it came to like going to school. So the advice I would give for just people that are struggling getting through school, survive so then you can thrive. Make it through this, just keep pushing. If it means putting your head down, focusing on academics and getting out, then let that be that. Because there will be a time that you'll get to thrive, and there will be communities where you will be seen and loved and held. And so it's putting your head down, surviving through it, and knowing that there will be times to thrive. And then once you get to those times, remember to unlearn the things you forced yourself to survive. For me, it was I wouldn't speak unless spoken to, and I wouldn't speak unless I was like called on with my hand raised, just because I didn't feel safe in those spaces. And that's what helped me get through school. Now, as an adult, or almost adult, I'm working on it. I have to unlearn that, where it's like, oh, I'm actually in a space where my voice people want to hear it. And so getting those survival tactics and then letting them go when you find your space and find your people.
Yeah, so definitely for school age kids, I would say that no matter what, just remember who you are, because that's all that matters. The people who might try to bring you down and might, say things about you, they really don't matter in the big scheme of things. Stick to your support group, whether that be online friends, family, friends that you have from school. Just hang on with them, and it will get better one day, no matter how bad it may seem. I really struggled to see that growing up in school. But when you can get out of such a toxic place that is public school, like high schools and stuff like that, you can start to see the real world, and you will probably be able to thrive, like Justin was saying, where, you can just be yourself and don't have to worry about anything but that.
Okay. And so now to audience. Oh, I'm sorry. You go.
No, you're fine. Well, I just want to echo what everybody else kind of said. I know that in high school, for me, kind of to get away from all like the negativity that was going on kind of around me, I made sure to have a spot where I knew where I was accepted, and I knew that, okay, being in this space right now is what's best for me. And for me, that was chat. and like going to track practice, even sometimes going to track meets, I knew that in that space, like everybody around me accepted me. At track practice, everybody, like no one treated me any differently. I was like another girl on the team. And I know that really helped kind of like just to surround myself around people, I mean, who accepted me and who loved me for myself. And I mean, it just really kind of made all the hate, all the negativity just not that big of a deal anymore, because I have so many people who are here supporting me, so many people who are in my corner, that, I mean, people can say, Joe can say whatever he wants to say 5,000 miles away, and I don't care. I have these people here supporting me. And I think that really helped to kind of really make that kind of help me, I guess, really just be my most authentic self, was having all those people there being, again, in my corner.
Sorry for interrupting you. Um, so Sally Mae has a question. I think we're gonna have them on screen to ask. Yeah.
Hi, sorry about that. I had to take that down. Give me just a second. Okay, hello all. To be honest with you, I am so just grateful to see, and I applaud you for being yourselves and all of the work that you're doing in so many aspects. Back up though, I want to be real with you. You know, my job is not specific to school specifically, but a freelance tutor where I work at a variety of schools. And so I get to interact with lots of different students. And mostly I work with in Black schools and with trans kids. So in my home area, I'm right across from John Marshall High School. If you know it, it's just right across the way. So I go there frequently. I go to another school, Henderson Elementary School, pretty close by. So I don't have anything to hide. I'm more than willing to tell you all, a couple of places that I work. Those are public schools. And I know that hearing trans folks struggle, absolutely. And I just want to name that there is a privilege there of being hearing that's different for deaf trans youth. Hearing trans folks, of course, I know that there's an experience of bullying, but if we compare that to the experience of deaf trans kids, the bullying is far greater. And I've witnessed it with my own eyes. I just happened to be at a school one day when I saw that happen. And I'm a contract, interpreter in a school, but I got involved, because I'm not technically staff at that school, but I said, you cannot, or, they told me that I couldn't get involved in that way and say anything, or that I would lose my contract. So I kind of just want to ask your all's advice, whether deaf or hearing trans folks. An interpreter is going to clarify real quick. Yeah, and so I asked a similar question yesterday. I'm wondering about mainstream schools, public schools, where there are deaf trans youth. They suffer with the autism in that space, as well as the transphobia in that space and the bullying. And it's not the same, I would say, the experience of bullying that you all go through versus that of deaf youth. If you can even imagine. So, I was really disappointed when that happened, that I couldn't be involved and step in the way that I wanted to. And so, just wondering whether, the bullying continues, specifically pertain to like deaf and hard of hearing kids. And, it's hard to see that. And so I was wondering if you had anything to speak on about that with your experiences.
Well, there's no way for me to truly know what a
And I
deaf
know
experience.
and I know that's a deep question, Sally Mae said. Specifically speaking from your perspective as trans youth.
Yeah. Well, I think it helps that you're an adult in that space, wanting to be supportive.
And just saying how there's a real hierarchy of lack of privilege, that deaf, hard of hearing, deaf, blind, folks experience, and it still exists to this day.
Mhm.
Despite our best efforts, and I want to do the best that I can to help folks in school change their policies and uplift those youth. But yeah, what were you going to say, Ali?
I was gonna say, I think it's helpful that you are an adult in that situation that gets to be there for those youth. And just that alone is super powerful. Having someone there that's wanting to help and wanting to have that conversation with them, like the conversation that like what just happened was not representative of how you are. If anyone else.
Yeah, I think when it comes to having different disabilities, there's always going to be
yeah, and unfortunately the school prevented me from helping. That was really difficult.
Yeah, I think when it comes to having different disabilities, there's always going to be an added aspect of bullying. For example, I'm very dyslexic, and so I was more bullied for not being able to read than for my gender identity. And that isn't equivalent to being deaf, but just like having different disabilities and different ways of perceiving the world adds an added challenge. And just to be seen by someone that is older is often what those kids need. One person can't stop someone from being bullied, but one person can say, I saw that happened and that wasn't okay. And that is like, sometimes they just need that reassuring, like, yeah, that sucked. And then little things like that, they add up in ways that you can't stop the system we're in, but you can give small nudges of like, yeah, you're valid. I see you. You're not alone. And those tiny things can help someone hold on and survive until they're ready to, until they're in a space to thrive.
Yeah, sorry, we are a little bit running short on time. So I did want to get to a couple other questions.
Really quickly,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, about all I needed to say about the schools.
I just wanted to make sure there's different stories being represented too. And I want to make sure I can get different support too from my school in order to be able to support these students too. But I feel like that's been just a difficult thing as far as barriers are concerned too. I want to be able to provide support to the students, but without that, it's just been difficult to, I think it's important that the high school itself needs to figure out ways to be support to their students as well. And that's just been a barrier for me, but that's all. I just want to put that out there, that there's some other aspects too happening here and different identities as far as like deaf people are concerned. And I just want to make sure that story is being put out there as well, as far as that perspective. But I really appreciate, and thank you so much for sharing all of your stories tonight and information. It's been really, really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally Mae. So there are two
Thank you.
questions pertaining to how elders in the community can be positive role models, and I think that sort of ties in what was just. So specifically from Charlie, as a Black trans elder who's active in our Black trans community, how can I help the young community, and what role can I play to help you? And from J.I. Presley, I know you all have been asked this question 1,000 times, but what can we as trans elders do to assist or be positive role models in your life? And again, we are running short on time.
I can be super quick. I just want to see you. As a young trans kid, I was like, nope, I have to be young and fit and white to be able to transition. And now I can't wait to be old and crumbly and wrinkly. And I just want to see that. And I don't like to know that you can be old and trans. That is beautiful. And so just being as visible as you're willing to be would make me smile every day.
Also, like what Justin was saying earlier, just the little moments that you can make a difference in a young trans person's life really last a very long time. And, if you can just be with them and be a support for them, it can really change everything that's going on, because they know that they at least have someone in their corner. And they could be someone who isn't as privileged to have family and friends that are supportive. And just knowing they at least have one person can make a world of difference.
Yeah, I don't want to like over repeat what has already been said, but I agree. Really, just being there for the trans community. I mean, showing up to our panel discussions. Really, again, having these conversations with, everyone in your life. Just again, and continuing to being yourself, being an elderly trans individual, like all of that. Really shows a lot to trans youth. And again, like as Justin was saying, oh, there's an elderly trans person. I'm a young trans person. Like that could be me in my future. And just that alone, like that could be everything to anyone. So I feel like, again, continuing to doing what you are doing is great in itself.
Yeah. There's 1 minute left. So I think I wanted to thank everyone for coming and thank our panelists for being so amazing. I'm so proud of all of you. I'm proud of you and proud of us as a collective. And I wanted to thank Virginia Equality, Talia. Thank you so much for putting this together. Them specifically, but Equality Virginia as a whole as well. And thank you to our interpreters, both Spanish and for an ASL. And if anyone wants to leave some remarks in this little sliver of time, I would encourage you some outgoing remarks. Panelists. we have a lot of compliments coming in, by the way, if you want to like look in the.
If there's any trans youth watching, you are loved and you will find your people. Just keep on going, keep on surviving, please. We can do this.
Thank you so much to you all. Sending my love, Sally Mae says.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah. I don't know. Everyone's saying thank you in the chat. Hold on. There was one. Thank you for the wonderful conversation, for being such remarkable role models for our kids. It's one of the comments. Thank you for, having that space with us. Yeah, I mean, it's 7:30. I don't know who, I mean, if we are still going, there's one other question. Okay. Okay, Talia sent the session evaluation in the chat if you want to go there. But there was one other question about finding and forming community in college, and any advice for that?
Kind of what I did to like find my community at school was, well, kind of before, or when looking at colleges, I kind of made it a point to have, or for my school to have like a LGBTQ plus resource center. So I guess for if you're like a junior in high school, you could do that. But if you're already in college, you could either like, I don't know, look up your school and then put LGBT resource center and see if they have one. And if not, I mean, I know that not everybody is kind of in like the leadership kind of way of doing things. So if you don't want to like start your own center or your own like club, I guess, I think you could, I'm trying to think, maybe, I don't know, speak to some other maybe administrators who you may feel comfortable talking to about, I guess, issues in the LGBT plus community. And I think really just having those conversations with like people around you, instead of like starting a whole club, maybe just having conversations and then maybe that could lead to something. But yeah, I don't know if that was good, but I know people don't want to like start a whole club. But yeah.
I definitely did what Andrea did when I was first looking for colleges, which is how I came across my university, because they are the most diverse school in Virginia, and they have very good resources, whether you are a person of color, whether you are a sexual assault survivor, have mental illness, whether you're gay, they have a lot of support. And definitely looking at the college's websites and stuff like that can really give you a good little sneak peek to see if they will support you and what you need during those years. And I know with a lot of, if your college maybe doesn't have something specific like my school does, there's a lot of different like social medias that are sometimes with your schools. I know like my school has like a Reddit, and you can technically have like your Reddit not affiliated with who you actually are, and you could kind of test the waters and be like, hey, is like anyone else LGBT on campus, I would like to hang out and stuff like that. Just always be careful about talking to the person and knowing who they are before you actually go do stuff with them, but testing the waters to see if there is anyone else who might be interested in being friends.
It was hard for me to connect with people if our only connection was our gender identity. Like, I don't want to be friends with you just because you're trans. I want to be friends with you because I care who you are. And so for me, going to clubs like poetry or art or mushroom collecting, things like that, LGBT people gravitate towards things like that. And so like, just like follow the memes of like what are queer people into these days. And that's also where you can find a community of things, like something you're interested in, and they'll support you. So it doesn't always have to be just the LGBT Center or just things like that, because there needs to be another, so for me at least, there needs to be another point of connection beyond my gender identity.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying on those few extra minutes to answer everybody's questions, to our panelists, to everyone who came and listened to these amazing youth share their stories and their experiences. We really appreciate it. I think that's all we have for tonight. Thanks so much for coming, everyone, and make sure to fill out the session evaluation that Talia posted in the chat. Have a good evening, everybody.